everybody, and welcome to my channel. This is a little update and should be part 3 of this series about the preamp, but it's not really part 3 because I haven't filmed part 3 yet, and this is by way of an update because so many of you have written to me and posted comments asking where the finished products are. So this is by way of an update and a list of excuses basically. So let's make a start. First of all, the project is still going ahead and is making progress. We're at the stage now where we've had the second prototype boards made, and there's now, well, I've got 2 here, and this is the finished product, the way it will be. And we're now literally waiting for the printed circuit manufacturers to come back with a final price. We're thinking initially of getting 100 boards printed, because at this stage we have no idea how many of you good folks are going to buy the board. So we're going to start with probably an initial 100 run, but if 6,000 people all of a sudden want the board, we can get, as there's nothing to change, or all we have to do is phone the PCB manufacturers and say make lots more. So that's the thing, and that is due to commence imminently. So please keep looking in your inbox to see when the next video is being made. And I should say that the next video will be the one that shows you all the circuits, all the component values, the board layout, and in fact we're doing it in such a way that anybody that can basically solder and has the basic understanding of electronics should be able to build this board and make it work. That's the prime object. That's the good news. The not so good news is that at the moment we can't source a supplier that will supply a kit of all the parts. One of the problems has been, first of all, which country we should use. Now, as Ron is based in America, we had originally thought of sourcing the kits from the likes of DigiKey and supplying the kits ourselves. But unfortunately, as you all know the news, tariffs are a major issue for doing that, and it would put the price, well, it would make it unviable. The components have to be sourced from China. Now, I know that will put the horror into many people, but all the good components these days come from China as well. Nichicon, by and large, they're all made in China. So please don't think that because they're going to be sourced from China, they're going to be rubbish, because this is also another small problem, is that when you go for quotes for supplying the kits and also for supplying ready-made boards, many of the suppliers, you can't, if you say you want a Nichicon certain capacitor, they say no, we can't do that one, we've only got the Qingming version. And they're cheap, but our prototype, the idea is that if you build this, if you just buy the board from us, we specify exactly the components we have used in the prototype, and if you use those components you will get the same results as we've shown you some results already with some square waves and things like that. But in the next video, the complete spec and the complete components list will be issued. It's all ready, but I don't want to do that until we can say, right, get your flexible credit card ready, phone or contact this number, and you can buy the board and it should be with you, subject to your postal system, within 5 to 10 days. So that's what we're going to tell you on the next video. But I don't want to tell you to do that now because we don't even know what the board's going to cost yet. An example of problems that we've had, Ron had 5 of the second board, this one here, printed, and he found that on top of all the carriage charges, for 5 boards he had a $33 tariff. Now clearly that's not something that's sustainable. Unfortunately, you good folks in America will have to pay import tariff, but not $33, because obviously you'll only be ordering 1, maybe 2 boards, who knows. And the rest of the world, of course, buying directly. These will be issued from China, from PCB Way. They will be doing the initial boards, and only the boards will be available first. So please, I don't like saying subscribe because it just irritates me when other people tell me to do that when I'm watching their videos. But if you do just subscribe, if you're not already subscribers, you will know the instant the video comes out giving the details of where to buy the board from and how to do with it. Now, on a quick side note, I'm sure many of you know that I have health issues, to say the least, and today's quite a good day, so this is why I'm making the video. I have some sad news that my colleague Ron is going into hospital for, strangely enough, almost exactly the same problems that I've had with my heart and health that he is also suffering from. So he goes into hospital, I think from memory, Monday. So I hope if you're watching this, Ron, we're all thinking of you and hope things are wonderful and you come out in better condition than you went in. And I'm sure most of, if not all, my viewers will wish you the same luck. So take care, Ron, and get well soon. On a different note, this is a kind of plea that someone out there, preferably from China, is watching this video. We need a company that will be able to supply the kit of parts for this preamp and also supply a complete working model. Probably less the potentiometer, and I'll tell you why very soon after I've made this plea. So if you own a company or have an eBay account or AliExpress account and you'd like to sell and supply our preamp and some possible other products which I would love to tell you about, other than to say that 2 other related products are in design stages. But I'm not going to tell you any more than that, because the next thing is everyone will get it. I'm excited and we're doing it. So I can imagine what it would be like, particularly if you do end up building this preamp. You will love it. I promise you, you will love it. We wouldn't have released it if it's not at least among the best available. and it's up for you, good folks, to decide whether it's the best or whatever, but it's certainly among the best. And all I can say about it is it doesn't have a sound. If you're looking for a preamp that has a sound, you buy a valve amplifier or valve preamp. What goes into this preamp comes out but louder. If you want anything else than that, you're wasting your time even thinking about this preamp, because it measures almost textbook. When we did the original simulations, it looked unbelievably good. But when we came to build it and then started testing it, it's almost as good as the simulations. Of course, it can't be as good as the simulations because the simulations doesn't look at the products in the real world. It doesn't allow for tolerances and things like that. But you've already seen, if you've watched part 1 and part 2, some of the square waves we've put on, and the distortion is, it's embarrassingly low. I know that's a stupid thing to say, but people do comment and say, oh, you don't want it with all those noughts, you can't hear it anyway. But the thing is, if you design a good preamp, it automatically has low distortion, because if all the components are operating in their prime positions and your transistors are biased correctly, it will inherently have low THD. It just will. It's a fact of life. If it hasn't got low THD, there's something wrong with the circuit. It's as simple as that. It's either not, well, I don't need to tell you what it's not, but you start off with an idea. Now, I have to say that this project is 95% Ron's. He has started off with a combination of what I thought should be in a preamp, and conversations backwards and forwards over several months. And Ron started to put that into practice, finding components which on paper were the best you could get. And then you build the circuit, and then you start making simulations of it. And that tells you if you've made a big cock up, if the distortion is 2% or something. It either means you're designing a valve amplifier. No, we won't go there. We won't go there. Or it means you've done something wrong. So the simulations come out and you end up thinking, well, if I can get that voltage a bit higher or a bit lower or something like that, then you do the simulations on that, change component values, and then on paper you come out with a near perfect product that then you have to make it. And we both started out making the product on perf board with wires linking the components, and amazingly that worked. So the next stage was, of course, to design the printed circuit board, which is 100% Ron's. On this part of the project, I have to say that it is Ron's circuit with input from myself. Basically, it's my job to test his work, basically, to make sure, like any product, somebody else, I was going to say who's unbiased, but I'm unbiased. Ron knows me well, and I think you good folks know me well. If something isn't good, I'm going to tell you it's not good. But I just wanted to have a quick word with you at this stage about input potentiometers. The printed board is, I think I've shown you before, does have the print for Alps potentiometers, and there are two types. that it will cater for. Now this is one. Now this one doesn't have the loudness taps on it. Now in all honesty, you don't need the loudness taps because there's no circuitry on the board for using the loudness tap. But if you've already got that pot, in other words there's another row of pins down here, the board, you can put that pot on the board. One of the other reasons for us not supplying the Alps pot is because there are many variations, both to the shaft length, whether it's got a screwdriver slot or whether it's got a corrugated edge, the length. So all these things is something that you must choose, because we don't know what you're going to do with this, whether you're going to have it mounted back in the cabinet, mounted in an aluminium or even an aluminum box. We don't know that, so there is no point us supplying the pot. The other point is, says he dropping it on the floor, this is the other type of Alps pot. It is a much cheaper version. It will also fit on the board. So if you want to save a few dollars, but I can't tell you, as I don't have that much experience, as to whether these are significantly worse. The price suggests that they're not as good, but equally they're still relatively expensive compared with the standard pot that you see for about $2–3. But you can use these depending on your application. But the main thing about the Alps pot is that you choose, the specification by the way is just a 50K logarithmic taper, or logarithmic, or that's the only thing you must have. But choose the thread and the length of the shaft to suit your particular project. Another point about this is, if you're going to have to mount the pot slightly further away from the printed board for whatever reason, again, we have no idea how you're going to mount this. Are you going to mount it in an existing cabinet? Are you going to mount it remotely or whatever? If you are going to mount the pot in any other way other than on the printed circuit board, it might be worth your while buying the pot with this little board. All it is a breakout board, and you just sit the pot on the board like so, and you have input and output on there, and you just mount that on your front panel, and the printed board you can mount elsewhere. But the only things that I would say about doing this, these little boards, by the way, we don't produce these. You'll find that you can get them from many of the suppliers of the pot, and it's $1 or $2, pennies. That's the end of this update. I hope it hasn't been too disappointing for those of you that thought we would have the board available now. But it is just round the corner, I promise you. And we know it's all stable and works well, because I've got two here. You've seen them. Ron's got some in America, and they'll be available to you very soon, I promise. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye for now.